Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's CACE Connects webinar series. This is a great time for us all to learn about how to express your brand across digital platforms. My name is Danielle Norris. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at RTOERO. And honestly, we're so thrilled to sponsor and present today's webinar session. For those of you who I haven't had a chance to meet personally, or you have read emails, just to give you a little bit of information about RTOERO, we are a national member-based organization that's here to support the education workers with services, programs, benefits while you're working, and even into this whole journey when you're getting into the exciting world of retirement. With over 84,000 members across Canada, we are the largest national provider of nonprofit group health insurance. And this is for the education community. So we're here for you. And this is great news because you all can be members. And it's just a great chance to take advantage of, as I mentioned, some of these, discounts, benefits, savings, all these things you can do, especially information as well, to get you ready for this journey. So we're all here to help. And that's what I love as well about being a part of CACE. And what CACE is here to do is help. Right? They help all of us. They provide information. They provide resources and things to get us all ready and fired up for what we do and to help and support everyone in education. So this is such a wonderful partnership. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I know that the session that you're getting ready for, you all just better get your pens, your paper, and everything ready because it's about to go down. So we have Sylvia Link, who is the Chief Administrative Officer for RTOERO, and Ashish Malik, the CEO of 108 Idea Space, two brilliant individuals that I've worked with over, don't want to date myself, but more than 15 years. But it's been such an amazing time working with them and learning from them. So getting a chance to get the inside scoop, get some tips on, how to really express your brand. There are so many platforms and we're here to learn all of it. We're here for everything. So as the session goes, as we go through the session, please feel free to use the Q&A box to answer your questions. I'll moderate and just keep an eye on all the questions as they come in, and we will get Sylvia and Ashish to answer. So everyone get ready. Without further delay, here they are.
Hi, thanks so much, Danielle.
All right, so thank you for that warm introduction, Danielle, and it has been a pleasure working with you all these years. So just to kick off things here, I know some people are still joining in. We wanted to kick off things always by understanding, who we are speaking to. So we are gonna just flip my screen for a couple of seconds, and I hope everyone can see my screen right now. We want to just know a couple of things before we jump into the content of today's webinar. So the very first thing is, if you can see this on your screen, the survey question, what is the size of your communications team? And if the best way to, answer this is, if you are on your, and I see some people are already have figured it out how to get there, menti.com and use the code, and you should be able to use this particular poll. We're going to keep it on for a few more seconds as we gather more feedback. And then if you are using your mobile devices, you can scan the QR code. And of course, it's very easy to take this poll.
So it's interesting, Ashish, to see that we've got folks kind of across the spectrum, but not a surprise that really we're seeing more of the small teams. And it's very much what we expected to see. And we've got some great, tips and ideas for you, regardless of the size of the team. So the small and mighty teams can be really effective in the branding space.
Absolutely. And if I can add, branding is important, even if you are, a single person organization. We are talking about the communications team here. Branding is important for your personal brand. So I'm pretty sure what we are able to share can be applicable to a lot of these organizations. I'm just going to move on to the second poll, knowing that the split here is very small to small communications team, but of course, small is always mighty. Have you ever been involved in a rebranding process? Right. We see again a fair mix on the left-hand side. Uh, a lot of you guys have recently been in the process a long time ago, and we see there are a few organizations here who haven't been involved in a rebranding process.
Yeah, and I see a few of you are going through it right now. So it's obviously very topical for you if you're in the middle of it. So it'll be interesting to hear from you through the Q&A in terms of the questions that you have as you're in the middle of the process.
Right. This is the last one. When was the last time your organization reviewed the brand? And when we say reviewed the brand, it does not necessarily means rebranding. It just means a review. It could be an audit, could be, taking a look at brand from different perspective. Right. So a good chunk here has reviewed the brand now for 7 years or more. So it's been a while. But if I think I see the numbers catching up slowly. The ones who are, of course, like in the last question, some of you mentioned like you're undergoing the brand refresh right now, and then some in the recent past. But I think everybody will have some insights to gain from today's webinar. But again, to mention that review versus refresh, I think, Sylvia, what will you say is a great timing to review the brand versus a refresh?
Yeah, well, it's, I'll start with those of you who are in a process now or have recently been through it. I think what you'll find is you're always in the process of reviewing your brand. But for sure, within that sort of 5 to 7 years, if there hasn't been a look at the brand, it's a good time to take that on. That said, no judgment. If it's been never, welcome. There no time like now to to consider it and to get some tools to start making that process happen. So let's jump right into the topic through the lens of the RTOERO brand story. So I'm just going to take you back to 2018 when we started as an organization. We were celebrating 50th anniversary. We had 66,000 members approximately who had joined through that first 50 years. When we surveyed our members, 65% were well satisfied with the service that we were providing. So not a terrible number, but not an overwhelmingly great number as well. We existed as an organization in a really complex landscape of competitors and partners. And if you look at this logo soup, and if you can spot us, you can see we didn't really stand out. So a lot of brand confusion, a lot of people, confusing us with others, maybe on this landscape. So certainly we were not standing out. We also had a situation, you can see here, 7, 8 different versions of our name. You would think that something like our brand name would be used consistently, but in fact, we were using all of these versions of the name at the same time, sometimes in the same publication or iteration. So that certainly added to the brand confusion. You see here some different logos, the visual expression of the brand. Again, you might think that these were expressions over the 50 years. No, they were all being used in 2018, all at the same time. And again, sometimes all on the same publication. So, it just gives you a little bit of a perspective. As well, when we looked across our digital properties, this might be something that resonates with those of you who have a corporate brand, a brand for your school board or school division, and also different brands for schools. We were in the same situation. We have 51 chapters, we call them districts. So not only did we have the main corporate website, but each district had its own completely different look and feel on their website. And as you can see, top right hand there, some websites that didn't even work. So that doesn't really give a lot of credibility to the brand when you see something like that. So definitely not a consistent, brand approach. So, if any of that resonates with you, any of you who are sort of looking at your brand right now or have never looked at it. So in 2018, we began a brand process, and we started calling it a rebrand, but quickly we changed and just called it a branding process, because in 50 years, we were one of that group. Those of you who said you've never reviewed your brand, that was us. We had never gone through a process to consistently review and understand our brand. So the process that we followed, oh, sorry, Ashish, if you could just go back one sec. The process that we followed, it looks very simple, sort of hourglass process. Started with research and discovery, so going as broadly as possible to get that 360 picture of our brand, and then synthesizing all that research down to a brand framework, and then broadening back out to expressing the redefined brand. I'm going to take you through each of those processes a little bit. Everything that we did was guided by this brand vision. So this is something that's really useful to keep in mind as you're going through any kind of a brand review or brand process. The brand needed, the work that we were doing needed to reflect and support our strategic plan and our strategic goals and priorities. It needed to help us differentiate from competitors and partners. It needed to resonate with our members. We've, as you see, have tens of thousands of members. For you, it might be staff, students, parents, and community partners. It needed to energize and inspire the people who were working on behalf of the organization, whether that was staff or partners. And it needed to generate creative ideas for marketing and communications, because brand, first and foremost, is the main way that we tell our story as an organization. So brand discovery and research entailed the following activities: a member survey, member focus groups, input sessions for members. So these were more in-depth sessions where we took groups of members through a range of activities. And a number of these research methods are in the brand toolkit. We've provided some templates and samples that are ready to use and adapt to your organization. We did a brand inventory. So some of the slides that I've shown in terms of, looking at all of the many, many different ways that we were expressing the brand, across the organization. We had meetings with stakeholders. So those are folks who were outside the organization. They know us well, but they had a different perspective because they were seeing, things that we couldn't see. And finally, we did benchmarking, looking at best-in-class brands and gleaning, lessons that we could learn from them. In the benchmarking process, we really identified 5 pillars of transformative brands. And I'm going to go through each one of them and just give you a couple of examples and questions that you can ask. So again, this is the kind of thing that as you're looking at your own brand, you can ask these questions. So the first of these pillars is authenticity. So the questions that we were asking ourselves is, what's true about our brand and what can our stakeholders trust about us? What are the things that we're most trusted for? If we think about well-known brands, some that come to mind that really embody this pillar are Nike and Dove, for example. So their claims are very authentic. They really live those brand claims in a very authentic way. The brand also needs to be relevant. So, here we're answering the question, how is our brand important to current stakeholders, but also thinking ahead to the future, to future stakeholders? Here, some examples that you might think of are IKEA or Amazon. Love it or hate it, Amazon has, developed a brand that is highly relevant to a lot of people. It has everything and it delivers it to your doorstep very quickly. And that's highly relevant to many, many folks in this modern world.
Yeah, and it's not just the shopping experience on Amazon, Sylvia. I think it's also about Amazon Web Services, the way they have been innovating and disrupting the market. I think that kind of speaks to that relevance, especially, when organizations are looking at, what's next for them, trying to serve Gen Z, millennials, like all the different stakeholders. I think looking at from that perspective, what is their current need, what are their future needs, and how can they stay relevant, not just today, but in the future as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The way that, like that's a really good example of looking at future stakeholders, like always looking ahead to see what other relevant services can we be providing to people that we're not providing today. And, as we're going through these and you're thinking about these brands, we all have experiences with transformative brands that we can, apply and think about those lessons learned. Uniqueness, of course, is a key brand pillar. It's all about, the brand helps to identify what's significantly different from all competitors and what we do better than any other organization. What's our unique brand promise? If we're not doing something better than everybody else, why do we exist? Here, Apple comes to mind as there is a crowded tech field, and Apple continues to dominate with the uniqueness of all aspects of its brand.
Yeah, and especially the user experience, you will find that's their motto, literally, everything that they're building, any kind of a device, whether it existed in the past or it's a new device, I think they are innovating using, making the user experience unique, which kind of stands out. So I think the question to ask during the process is, what's unique about your organization, and if you think like what you're doing is done by tons of other organizations, then ask, is there a unique way of doing certain things a certain way?
Mhm.
And I'm sure, and especially when you conduct those focus groups, going back to your stakeholders, some things might appear unique to them. So just ask them if you can't think of any.
Yeah. Well, and again, in public education, you may feel that you don't have as many competitors as some organizations, but there are still always competitors, and thinking about uniqueness is one way that you can differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. And the landscape is changing in education, as you probably know, like all the, especially with the pandemic, coming up of all these websites, mobile apps, which can provide different experiences in the education and homeschooling. If I was in the education space, I look at all of those as competitors, or, as we call in the nonprofit world, there are peers, because we are all working towards the same mission. But I think said that the brand itself is still the key and is still stand important.
Yeah. Well, and that purpose-driven aspect of brand is something that public education should, we should own that. We should, really be able to thrive in this pillar, because we know that transcendent brands are centered around shared values. People look to connect with brands whose values align with their own. And this should be an area where we can really thrive. Nonprofits that are really, exemplifying this might include World Wildlife Fund and Charity Water, just two examples, where, the values and the lived experience, the lived brand experience are really aligned and connect well and resonate with people. And the final pillar is to remember that the brand isn't just a logo or colors or words on a page. It's the whole experience. So thinking about every aspect of the stakeholder experience with your brand, rather than just, kind of the more superficial aspects, and making sure that you're delivering that consistent and exemplary experience throughout every brand touch point. Here, Disney is a great example that comes to mind, and they're a world-class case study that many people, they've got the Disney University kind of to teach other organizations how to replicate that consistency of brand experience. If we look at, again, the pillars and these examples that we've talked about, you can really see that you could take any one of those brands and go through all 5 pillars and likely really be able to check, they would check all of those boxes. So where we might be stronger in one area or another, we really want to think about all the pillars together. And that's what is really going to make a strong transformative brand.
Absolutely, Sylvia. And one of the things which have stood out in my career over the years, the brands that we have been able to work with and impact, I think it kind of connects to even those brands, as a nonprofit as well. Being authentic, being relevant, unique. This is not something which I think is out of the world, but I think this is kind of what your audience wants and expects of you in today's world, because the information flow is faster than ever. People have the information available at their fingertips, and it's very easy to see whether a brand is living that experience or not. So it's no more lip service in talking about who we are, but it's also about living it. And it doesn't take long for anyone to like take a video and post it on social media and then expose the experience. So it's also about taking these pillars, thinking about this, and also asking the question, how can we live each of these on an ongoing basis?
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure. So, taking those benchmark pillars, in mind, as I said, the discovery process is one where first you gather as much information as possible, and then you're, synthesizing it down to your brand framework. I'm going to go quickly through a few of the elements of the RTOERO brand framework. And in the toolkit is a checklist of items that should be part of your brand framework. So you're not starting with a logo or new colors. You're starting with a brand idea. For RTOERO, it was 18 months of research, synthesized down to this one brand idea: the power of our community to secure a better future. And you can see each of those words has many concepts and ways that we're expressing it underneath that. We also identified, our members and stakeholders identified 6 brand pillars. So 6 areas of work that we do, programs and services we provide that are relevant and important and essential to them. 6 is a lot, I will say. So, but that's what emerged. That's what folks told us. So identifying the brand pillars is key. And then taking those brand pillars and mapping them out in a brand positioning kind of mapping exercise. Here is just a small snapshot of that mapping. What's important to see here, and it was really a revelation to us when we did this, is we have competitors and partners in certain lanes, certain brand pillars, but there is no other organization that provides this mix of programs and services. So that is one of the ways in which we're able to identify our uniqueness. Brands are like people, they have personalities. And these are the personality statements. Again, it didn't come from us telling our stakeholders that this is our personality. They told us that. And so this becomes the touch point then, a touchstone that everything we do, every piece of material, every experience needs to embody this brand personality. Same thing with the brand values. These come from the research, from the discovery, and they need to be lived. And so, we've unpacked these brand values in many ways in terms of saying, when we're, living the brand value of giving back, what does it look like across different iterations of our brand? Those are a few examples of the kinds of materials that you're going to have as you're developing your brand framework. Once that's defined, then you start to go back out and expand the work that you're doing as you express your brand across many different platforms and to different members and across the organization. It's important as you're doing that to have a clear brand architecture in mind. So for us, the RTOERO master brand, it encompasses the main organization, the national organization, our charitable foundation, our 51 districts, our programs and services that we deliver with partners. Everything needs to fit under that master brand in a way that helps people understand the relationships between the different elements. So I like to say, it's not, these different parts of the brand are not identical twins or identical siblings, but we need to see a strong family resemblance. And so I'm going to show you just a few examples of how that brand expression has worked in terms of visual language and how we have been translating it across the organization. So from brand guidelines to publications to signage to iconography, and digital platforms, you can see the consistent yet flexible approach. It needs to work and be consistent, whether we're doing digital or print publications, online platforms, or we're an organization that loves our promotional items. So it doesn't matter what part of the brand, or it needs to be consistent, but yet be flexible enough to work across all these iterations. And as I said, it needs to work for the corporate level and for all of our districts as well. So here you see just a very few of the ways in which we're expressing it, across our districts as well as corporately. And finally, the online community. So back to this logo soup, you can see our new identity and the extent to which it sort of changed. Of course, this is only one way in which we're differentiating ourselves. Really, the important thing is that this is a full approach to every aspect of our brand, not just the visuals. As great as the visuals are and all of these iterations of it, as I said at the beginning, our brand vision was first and foremost about delivering results on our strategic plan and our strategic priorities. So Ashish, I'm going to turn it over to you to share some of the results that we saw with this through this process.
Absolutely. And, a quick reminder to everybody, if you have questions coming up along the way, please feel free to put those in the chat box. And, we have our lovely Danielle kind of looking at it, and we will do our best to answer all of them at the end of the webinar. So yes, Sylvia, you're right. Like, it's in the end, it's all about results. You invest in a rebranding, you invest in digital, you invest in it for results. So I'm sure you have seen this. RTOERO in the first 50 years of its evolution had about 66,000 members, an average of about just over 1,300 members a year. And one, I would say, peculiar thing or unfortunate thing about the organization is, RTOERO, serves because it serves seniors, in the education space, it continuously lose members every year because people pass away. And that means that in order to grow, it's a sure shot decline that is happening that has to be overcome. So any numbers that you see here essentially accounts for those as well. So post rebrand, in the next 4 years time, the membership actually grew by about 28%. So you can imagine, it's not 70,000 or 71 or 75. It's about 84,000, and today its number is, I think, closer to 85,000. So it's kind of consistent growth, and that too through the pandemic, through all the different efforts. But we think the rebrand effort has a role to play in this growth as well. And you saw, in 2015 when RTOERO conducted the survey, member satisfaction was about 65%, and that changed to about 87% in the following survey after the rebrand, which kind of speaks to the level of experience that is also perceived by the audience, by the members in this case, grew quite significantly. Also knowing that a lot of people appreciate and use digital platforms these days to do their work. So that sort of an increase is pretty amazing. Not just that, through the different platform that were built as part of the rebranding or following the rebrand, some of the campaigns which RTOERO ran, one of them called 21 Chats. It's about interviews with 21 thought leaders, and this was kind of an opt-in to receive this in your email through an automation of these 21 interviews. Essentially, when we launched this, the first 5 weeks, RTOERO was able to gain 500 new leads, and the conversion rate on some of these campaigns, and particularly on this one, was about 55%, which is remarkable. For all of you marketing leaders, 55% conversion. Can you imagine? Out of every 100 people that are seeing or seeing that landing page, 55 people taking action. So this was pretty huge, and this was a result of not just the amazing landing page, the amazing idea which RTOERO had, but also finessing and A/B testing and creating that experience, living that experience on the brand that was created a couple of years ago. And not just that, Sylvia talked about the 51 district, which had 51 district websites. It used to be a nightmare to manage those 51 sites, and all of those sites were managed by volunteers, which means it is really onerous, and that's why the state of some of those websites were not looking the great. So after the rebrand, and I'll share a little bit more about how we approached that particular problem. We were able to save about 6,000 hours a year of staff and volunteer time as a result of some of the finessing that has been done while expressing this brand across these platforms. Which is pretty remarkable. It's about 4 full-time employees worth of hours saved every year. And I just wonder, even if you have one more full-time employee, especially I'm thinking about the smaller organization, what kind of impact can you make on your marketing efforts, on your stakeholders as a result of that additional time available? So pretty pumped about some of these results that RTOERO achieved. RTOERO also redid their website following the rebranding process, and some of the website results as soon as the site went live in 2019. In the next 12 months following that, had a year-on-year increase of 53% in web traffic. Not just that, about 55% of those web traffic were new users, which means not just we increased the quantity, but the quality of users who were coming to the site was also improving. And the number of sessions increased by 37%, which kind of means that now people were returning to the site and consuming more information as well. Of course, the time spent increased as well. The only thing which went down was the bounce rate. If you kind of combine all of these 4 stats, if we are able to reduce the bounce rate at the same time increase the web traffic, that 53% actually becomes 80% increase, which is pretty remarkable. And when the website was delivered as a result of the rebrand, we at the outset, took care of some of the SEO aspects, RTOERO, figured out, what are the keywords that they really want the website to rank for, and as a result, the rankings for those keywords actually improved quite a bit as well, which was kind of partially the reason why some of these stats were accomplished. But if you kind of sum total or try to connect these results, from increase in membership to, increase in traffic, to better infrastructure to deliver that brand, I think you can connect these dots and see, you can't really pinpoint on one activity which could have led to this. I think you have to actually move a lot of these things in parallel to actually support that, uh, and if I
Yeah,
can say,
well, and just to go back to that point about the like ranking, because previously we might not even have known what keywords we needed to rank for. So the brand idea, the brand pillars helped us identify, what were the important keywords that we needed to be ranking for in order to generate more leads and to make the most of the, additional website traffic that we were receiving, because as great as it is to have more website traffic, if it's not driving results, it's not really going to help you.
very true. And if I can say, the epitome of the rebranding process was, when you don't say that it's looking great. I think it's when other people start saying, you guys did something amazing. And RTOERO was recognized on regional level in Toronto, national level in Canada with Silver Leaf Award, and at the international level with a Gold Quill Award. The whole rebranding of the organization is definitely something exceptional. So now that you know the results, I think it will be a disfavor if I just say, we are done. Let's ask our questions. But because I like to say, how it was actually done, to give you some real life tips on, when you're thinking about your rebrand, the rebrand just does not stop when you get the new logo or the collateral or the messaging. I think the real work starts after that. And I'm sure, like Sylvia, you can attest on that. And of course, the folks in the room who have actually went through a rebranding process recently or years ago can attest to that as well. It's just the beginning. Now you have, it's when the real work happens, when the results are going to be driven. So we have some stuff to share before and after, and I'm just going to go into this, and again a reminder, if you have any questions on anything we have shared so far, feel free to put that in the chat box. And towards the end of this webinar, we're going to share a link to download the branding toolkit, which actually talks about and give you some real life examples or frameworks to use for your own brand. So this is how we started. Back in 2018, the first step, besides while the rebranding process was happening, we started looking at the technology stack which RTOERO uses. And this is the current state that we came up with after a series of interviews, series of looking through the systems. We call this process building a blueprint, like a digital blueprint. Just like, when you're building a home, you will actually come up with an architecture of that. Is pretty similar to that. And the reason why we do that is to identify the gaps, number one, where the issues are, and number two, where the opportunities might reside. And based on all of the diligence, all of the work that happens, we start building the future state of what this might look like in years to come. So all of this work was happening in parallel while the rebranding was happening. You can imagine, like, all of this at some point converges, and that's when it kind of takes off. So this is the future state which we identified based on all the interviews, all the work, and validated it with different people within the organization, just to make sure there is a consensus on where we want to head to. And during the process, we actually weeded out a lot of redundancies, a lot of inefficiencies, which essentially leads to the results that we talked about. And the current state, as in 2024, has changed quite a bit. Some of these are already ticked off the plate. Some of these, are no longer a priority because it's an evolving organization, and all of that. Everyone kind of knows when they are in the process right off the bat. So this was one of the things which RTOERO did. And then we went into the website build. We built the web strategy for the organization. And that's where, we went into our process called strategic target analysis, where we defined the key stakeholders for the organization. And we said, how do we prioritize? How do we segment these? And what are some of our key messages we want to convey to these stakeholders? What are some of the challenges we solve for these stakeholders on a day-to-day basis? And based on that, we came up with a whole bunch of content, features, functionality ideas, and built almost like a roadmap, which kind of leads to a lot of different things which follow this particular process. Whether it's your website, whether how social media is going to be managed, whether the kind of campaigns. There's always something which is kind of a guiding stone, where you can look at these key stakeholders and say, how the idea that we are thinking is going to impact our stakeholders. So we went into that. Based on that, the website was delivered. And not just that, when we delivered the website, there were lessons learned from the previous iterations of the site. So all of those kind of came in handy. And we wanted to build something which RTOERO can maintain in-house, make sure that it's easy enough for them to manage things on a day-to-day basis. And that's where, ability to change the hero image, leveraging integration and automation wherever possible. Some of the stats that you see on this screen, they're all pulled directly from this CRM, so that, nobody has to actually go and change these numbers every time, they acquire a new member or they lose a member. So that kind of speaks to that authentic self. We are transparent, we are, plus, we are being efficient by using automation where we can. And not just that, the automation was used heavily in other places. The events calendar essentially gets fed directly from the CRM as well. There was a time, the 51 district contacts, when they change, it took several months to a longer time to update those contacts, because these were all updated manually. But once we rebuilt the website, we connected that with the CRM, so that when the district president information is changed at one place, essentially that trickles down at all the different places where this is to be read. And sometimes small ideas like this can lead to bigger gains, which is what happened in case of RTOERO. And you looked at some of the state of district sites when Sylvia opened the presentation, and one of the things we did was conducted a district site audit at a 11-point website audit scale, which is another process we follow for website audits. And based on that, we came up with a whole bunch of ideas. Now, I'm sure you must be wondering, even if I look at these examples, I can say, yes, these sites need to be redone. What's the need for a website audit? And this is where I think I'm sure you follow this process, or you are in the middle of some of these things all the time, where you have to do a convincing job to make sure there is an alignment in the organization. The board is aligned with the direction. All the different staff members. The volunteers who are managing these sites. They are doing their best to manage these sites. How do you bring them on board? So this is why the website audit was done. I don't know if Sylvia, you want to add to that, but this is the whole idea of consensus building, which was not done just done in this particular scenario, but it actually happens from time to time during this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things come to mind. One of the things that I think will resonate with folks on this call, if you have school websites, or different program websites, is often they're done by, even if it's staff, by people doing things off the side of their desks. So one of the quickest ways to build consensus and support for this kind of change is to show them how this will make their lives so much easier by automating a lot of this and taking away manual updating. You're saving them time and making their lives better. And that, is typically a good way to win people over.
I'm sure. And Sylvia, I know your experience in the school board as well, and all the other places you have worked at. I'm sure you can do another webinar on just consensus building in this particular space. But let's leave it at for another day. But when we did the audit, one of the things we actually tried to do was also quantify the impact, and basically, it was very detailed work looking after every single site and say, what's not consistent, is security a challenge, compliance a challenge, what's the risk, and when you start quantifying some of these things, two things happen. Number one, you can feel the impact, the negative impact in this case, but also, you have something to measure your performance at. Once you transform this, you can go back and say, what kind of difference you have made to the organization, and this is the current state. Once the 51 districts were rebranded, the sites were redone, and as Sylvia just mentioned, one of the approach we took to build these 51 district sites, and I know a lot of guys in the room basically have all the different school sites that you may have to manage as well, which may be having an inconsistent experience. One of the things we did was we created a master template which kind of drives all of these 51 templates. So essentially, if you need to make a change to, say, the logo or the hero image of any district site, you don't have to log into 51 sites to make that change. You can actually make that change from one place. Which essentially is responsible to actually save a lot of hours. But not just that, it just brings the control back in the hand of RTOERO as the organization versus, having 51 different people, managing those sites and having that dependency. So while volunteers are still managing these sites, that control, and of course they find it easy, but there's still an element of control which RTOERO has on its digital properties, which is important in today's world. Where cybersecurity, that's a whole other topic we can talk about for hours and hours. Something else we did was we wanted to make sure these district sites does not become a no man's land if the volunteers are busy and they're not able to add content, add events on a regular basis. So what we actually did was we built it in a framework which allows RTOERO staff to push content from the main site into these district sites just by a click of a button. And this is an example of one of the sites where all of the content is actually coming from RTOERO. And if we did not build that bridge, essentially, when somebody goes to this particular site, they will see nothing. Which means, we are not living that authentic experience we want to create. We're no longer relevant to the folks who are actually looking at your stuff or RTO stuff at the prairies and so on. So again, like a lot of thinking, pre-planning goes into this, which kind of helps express these on all the different platforms. And of course, after several years, we also started digitalizing a few other properties, the annual report, again, same templated approach so that, you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars every year to build your annual reports. So it's a templated approach which we took, which again, strengthens and takes or amplifies that brand to the next level year after year. Because one thing which is also important, and Sylvia, I'm sure you can attest to that, you can reach with the rebranding, you can reach to a certain image, but what's hard is to continue, providing that consistent experience and maintain that image, and that is where a lot of if you make things easier and efficient, that's where a lot of this is made possible.
Yeah, well, and for a lot of folks who have, who are small teams, templates, this template kind of approach, using automation helps to make it possible for a small team to do what looks like the impossible. We can create impressive results even with limited resources.
Absolutely. And RTOERO had has a magazine. It's an award-winning publication called Renaissance. And one of the things we did was added it or moved it to a digital platform. The publication still exists in a print format because some members prefer that. But we know, things are changing. We need to be relevant, and that's when the publication was actually moved to the online platform, and that kind of enabled a lot of other things which you may not have thought about. It provides the ability to have a longer shelf life for the content. So the content which is created in the previous season can actually be searched in this, not just the previous season. You can actually go a few years back. You can use it as a lead gen mechanism. You can use it as another vehicle where there are eyeballs, so you can share your announcements. But not just that, you can actually create more value for your partners and sponsors, and use it as an advertisement revenue vehicle. So when we started thinking about it, a lot of those ideas kind of came to forth, and then of course, we gave it a great user experience to make sure it's in brand, it lives those 5 pillars of transformation, and is built to actually do what it's actually should do. And I'm going to be quick because I want to make sure we have some time for answers. This is a LMS, learning management system we prepared for RTO just right in the website. This is not geared to the members, but it's actually geared to the volunteers, because we wanted to make sure volunteers have a way to learn some of the new things which are coming up. And of course, this created a vehicle for RTOERO to now disseminate content to different volunteers. So at least nobody will have a reason to say, oh, I didn't know how to do this, because it's easily accessible in the LMS. So just takes a lot of back and forth away from the staff. And there are quite a few more things we implemented. We implemented some inbound marketing where we created opt-ins for on the website. And those of you who are familiar with this concept, it's about, rather than always broadcasting and going out, it's about, creating pieces of value which people will consume and opt into, and that's why we call it lead magnets, to attract your stakeholders to actually download your content, and then that gives you the permission to stay in touch with them. And what follows that is some marketing automation, which means you basically have some automation built to get in touch with these people and amplify that trust level with them on an ongoing basis, and all of that happens automatically. And some of these are new member campaigns for the folks retiring in the future, some new member campaigns retiring immediately, folks who are interested in particular services. So all of those things were delivered to actually make this inbound marketing actually work for the organization. And those of you who are not familiar with A/B testing, this is the whole concept of, building something and then say, how can we optimize this for conversions? And if any of you are spending any dollars on advertisements today, it's very important to make sure, the traffic actually goes to landing pages, which can then be A/B tested so that you can optimize your conversion. Because if you are spending all this money getting people to a point, if they don't take action, then you are essentially not maximizing the impact. So we embedded some frameworks in their website where the system can track the impressions, the conversions, and then also through some AI algorithms say, what's going to happen in the next number of months. If they continue with this lead magnet, and depending on whatever you're testing, what's actually going to make more impact in the years to come. This is one of my favorite quote from the great Wayne Gretzky. You know, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been, and it's so relevant and true in case of branding or marketing and whatever you do, because things are changing so fast in this world, and that's where the whole idea of is A/B testing useful? Is it? Do I need that today? I think you may not need that today, but you need those capabilities once you have the foundation built, and that's why it kind of speaks to always thinking about where the puck is going to be, and if I think of where the puck is going to be after you take care of a lot of these things, it's about how do you leverage AI, how do you leverage some of the other tools that might be at your disposal to make a difference, because all of these things are going to be relevant in the years to come, and your stakeholders will expect it, and not just expect it. Your competitors will actually start using it already. And just thinking about where the puck is going, I think for RTOERO, you probably already know they're hosting an international aging summit. This is one of its kind, conference which is going to happen in May. If you haven't registered, I think this is a great opportunity to visit this website and register for this event as well. But it almost speaks about how the brand has been able to scale over the years to this point. And Sylvia, if I can ask you a question right now before we open this for the audience, did you think about this back in 2017?
Yeah. So, great point. And to your point about, there's so many technologies, so many opportunities that you might pursue. The brand framework helps to guide, which ones are going to have the best impact and deliver results for the organization. So, before we worked on the brand, political advocacy was not something that we leaned into heavily. It came from the discovery from members, from stakeholders, that this was something important that the organization should be doing. And I will just say, and Danielle can attest, the more we do, the more our members lean into that and are looking for us to do more and more of it. And so this international summit on the future of aging, where we're bringing together experts from around the world to share best practices, is something we could never have imagined, but is completely true to the brand. And so it helps us, we all have lots of ideas. Which one should we pursue? It all comes back to the brand idea and the brand pillars.
That's great. So I'm going to stop right here, and leave this slide open so that you can download the branding toolkit we have been talking about. Once you download this, it's a quick form to fill up, and you will have again the opportunity to opt in. You can say no if you feel like, and we won't bother you. Basically, all you need to do is, once you fill up that form, you will be sent all of these documents, which can help you, start thinking about that process. And for the folks who are already in this process, maybe you can, gather some tidbits that you can use towards your rebranding process today. So at this point, I wanted to stop right here and open the floor for questions. Danielle, I know you've been monitoring. Are there any questions we can answer?
So first I want to say, I told you it was going to be an amazing session. Like, honestly, working with Sylvia and Ashish over all this time, it's just been such an honor to just soak up all this knowledge. And I can tell that they gave a lot of information, because we didn't get a whole lot of questions, because I know that they were very clear. The information is what you need, and you actually have access to all these resources through this link. There is one thing, though, that maybe, and I know that in the beginning when we did the questions, we saw that there are some of you who are from either smaller organizations or smaller teams. And I know that we provided some tips, and we provided some information. And as you did say, well, we could probably do a whole session on how to get the buy-in, or how to get when it comes to that. But I'm just wondering, when it comes to getting this whole process started, we know it is a very, very big process, and we know it's beyond just a logo, beyond just a name. What would you say would be the top tip, or even say the top 3 things that an organization or someone who's on this call could do? If there's anything that they could do that they could really get this started? It's just sort of like, how can they start? There isn't a big team. They're from a small area. What would you say are the top 3 tips that you would give them to really get this process started?
Great question. And, really, if you're a small team, if you don't have a budget, there's 2 things I would suggest that you start with that don't cost any, sort of extra money. It's a little bit of your time. One is to do that inventory, that brand inventory. Just start to gather things up, because that's a story that just speaks for itself. You saw some of the things I showed. So we shared our dirty laundry, and it's like, no shame, that's where we were as an organization. The other is to take, we've got sample questions for a brand discovery survey. So if you have a SurveyMonkey account, or even, like whatever you're using now, don't get anything new. You can adapt that survey, send it out to to some of your audiences, and start to get some of that feedback, because again, that gives you data that you can bring forward to make the case for more resources, to show how it connects to the strategic plan. And it's something that you can do yourself. You don't need a consultant or, anyone outside of your own, me, myself, and I team to do.
If I
Ashish, is
can,
there anything else you would say?
I can add one more thing. I'll say, how do you eat a watermelon? You're going to slice it, dice it, get it to the essence and say, so take a look at, this particular whole process that we went through is no less than, swallowing a watermelon, and we could not have done it, if we didn't look at it in phases. So everything is all about, like when we think of the digital blueprint as well, it's about, how do we break it down into chewable pieces and then make it happen. And what it also means is chewable pieces, are not time incentive, they're not intensive, they're not resource intensive, and whenever you find the budget funding for some of these things, if you have a roadmap, you can start taking on more of that. And if the rebranding can save you a few hours as well, guess what, where those hours are going to be spent.
Ashish, I'm wondering if we can go to the last slide, because as well, questions may occur to you as after, and we're both delighted to hear from you, and contact us directly, and we're happy to speak further or answer questions, share other resources.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and all these tips and insights. And I know that if there are any questions, people will definitely reach out. But I want to thank you, and thanks to Ryan and his team in CACE, and we will definitely see you all at the next webinar. Take care, and thanks for joining.